To wine lovers, there's nothing we love better than a bargain vino, but one person's bargain could be another person's swill. Natalie McLean has made a career of tasting wine, and now she's traveled the world looking for some great deals. Her new book, Unquenchable, A Tipsy Quest for the World's Best Bargain Wines, well, is the product of those travels. She joins us today. Hello, Natalie.
Hi, Angela.
You know what, we talked, the last book you came out with was Red, White, and Drunk All Over. If nothing else, you've got some great titles.
Thank you. That's a good start, I guess, yeah.
I think the neat thing about this book is some people might see it as world's best bargain wines, and they're going to open it up and they'll say, oh, here, what region is this? What's the best deal? You always have such a great knack for telling stories.
Oh, thank
Why
you.
is that so important?
Well, to me, first and foremost, a book about wine should entertain. And so if you're not laughing and having fun and getting carried along with the narrative, I haven't done my job. So what I try to do was seek out the most obsessive, passionate, provocative, colorful winemakers I could find, and in telling their story, tell the story of wine. So you get the narrative of, what's going on in this region, and then at the end of the chapter, there are the insider tips, which wines to buy and so on. But really, it's combining that narrative, I think, that people really enjoy.
I love the fact that you start off the whole story by saying you've always been looking for bargains. I mean, you grew up, single family or single mother raised you. Times were tight, so you knew what a deal was when you saw one.
Absolutely. Developed a nose for a bargain early. We used to shop at secondhand clothing stores. After a while, though, it became fun. It was the thrill of the hunt. Anyone can slap down $100 for a wine. Congratulations. But can you find something that's reasonably priced and costs twice as expensive, tastes twice as expensive as it costs?
And that's the thing. I don't think bargain and cheap are interchangeable. These are two separate things, aren't they?
Exactly. A bargain or value is the ratio between price and quality. So are you getting more than what you paid for? Cheap is just the lowest price possible, and that's not really what I was after.
I think the tough thing, though, when it comes to wine is it's very subjective.
It is. It depends on the style you like and what you think is expensive versus, inexpensive, what you're having for dinner and so on. So there's a wide range, and that's why I really did travel around the world to find different styles of wines in that bargain range.
Yeah, that wasn't a bargain, traveling around the world, but you were doing it for a reason. Take us to Australia, because what I found interesting was you met Wolf Blass, and for years I've drunk his wine. I've enjoyed his wine. What was Wolf Blass like?
He was more colorful than, I think, a brand character that a marketing team could invent. In fact, people think that he's a brand character. He's not. He's real. And so I met him in his winery in Australia, and he's into his 70s, well into his 70s, but he has the energy of a man half his age and twice his height, I must say. He's 5'3", I'm 5'10". But, he's quite provocative and says quite randy things. He's quite enjoys the company of women. But what I liked was that he was so passionate and so committed to making great wine at reasonable prices, and that's what I was searching out. Had he just been colorful but his wine wasn't that good, I wouldn't have included him. And so I was really, he really stands for what I was looking for, that whole range of value.
And again, after every chapter. By the way, you've made your chapters a different day of the week because you want people to think of enjoying a different wine each day?
Absolutely. I tried to structure it over, if you're having Sunday dinner, usually maybe that's a family dinner, maybe it's roast beef or chicken or something. What's a good wine for that day? Monday I chose a really light German Riesling, low in alcohol, in case you have had quite the weekend.
Yes.
And then we keep going all the way back, and I circle round to Sunday brunch.
Yeah, you even slipped in a wine for Sunday brunch. So in Australia, at the end of the chapter, you talk about the top value producers. You don't say specific wines. You say the winery and maybe the vintage, because that could change.
Exactly. And, that's the beauty these days of publishing a book. it's not out of date a month after it hits shelves, because I make it pair up with my website where I'm recommending wines every week. New wines are posted on nataliemclean.com. You read the stories, you find out the backstory about the characters and the people who make the wine. You get the recommended brands, but then if you want the specifics of what's in stores now, you go to the website.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we're talking about wines. We can't talk about wines without sampling a wine. Coming up after the break, what have you brought in?
Well, this is a wonderfully red, robust wine from Torres, which is Spain, and it clocks in only at about $14. I think you're going to be impressed.
All right, we're back after this.
Celebrate the spirit of Christmas at Spruce It Up Garden Center. Live trees and greens, lifelike artificial trees and garlands, and beautiful Christmas decor for your home. Find great garden gift ideas, including gift certificates for the gardeners on your list. While you're there, stock up on premium birch firewood. Celebrate the spirit of the season at Spruce It Up Garden Center. Open year-round, 7 days a week. South on McLeod Trail at 210th Avenue.
Spruce It Up, the best little Christmas store in Calgary.
How has your investment portfolio performed?
I'm Dave Popowich.
And I'm Faisal Karmali, and you hear us on QR77's Market Reports.
Let us show you how our portfolio has outperformed the market for the past 10 years.
We've shared our investment strategies with thousands of Calgarians.
And now we'd like to share them with you.
Attend our seminar, 7 p.m., November 22nd, at the TD Bank Crowfoot location.
To register, call Popowich Karmali Advisory Group, TD Waterhouse, 966-8400.
TD Waterhouse Private Investment Advice is a division of TD Waterhouse Canada, Inc., a subsidiary of the Toronto Dominion Bank, member CIPF.
Honey, I'm home.
Where have you been?
I had to work late.
I called your office. You smell like a bar.
I swear, honey,
And there's chalk on your collar. You've been playing pool somewhere else.
Technically, I was playing snooker. Oh, don't be like that.
Don't play around. Play pool at home. Pathmark Billiards. Super high-end pool tables and everything in between. Check out their showroom at 3612 Blackfoot Trail Southeast. Pathmark Billiards and Games.ca. If you're gonna play pool.
The Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra has pulled out all the stops to bring the world's best soloists and music to Calgary in the event of the season. Virtuosity, a festival of extreme classics. Highlights include a Brazilian guitarist, the epic Rite of Spring, vocalists, violinists, pianists, and more. It's a full-on symphonic spectacle. Virtuosity, a festival of extreme classics, November 22nd to December 3rd. Tickets as low as $19. Call 571-0849 or visit cpo-live.com today.
How do you say Merry Christmas to your in-laws? By saying goodbye to the sofa bed this year and buying a comfortable, genuine Murphy bed from Custom Wall Beds. It's not too late to get a custom wall bed in time for Christmas. You can still get an in-stock, genuine custom Murphy bed. Plus, you'll make someone who has to sleep on a sofa bed season brighter. This year, deck the walls with Custom Wall Beds in the Foothills Industrial Park. Visit CustomMurphyBeds.com.
Hello, I'm Stephen McIntosh of Optics International. If you've been to your optometrist lately, you've been told about digital progressive lenses. You may have as well been shocked by their price. No longer. Optics International is unveiling its new in-house digital lens manufacturing lab and the ability as a result to sell Shamir-designed digital progressive lenses at non-digital prices under our everyday 2-for-1. And yes, you've heard me correctly. In our opinion, this is a game changer, and we're having difficulty imagining how anyone could justify purchasing non-digital lenses anymore, and why they would go anywhere other than Optics International. The greatest advancement in progressive lenses in our history at non-digital prices every day at Optics International, the largest optical stores in Canada, in Calgary South Trail Crossing on 130th Avenue Southeast, and now in Beacon Heights on Sarcee Trail.
Optics International, look at it, seeing your best.
When my 4-year-old had an ear infection, I called HealthLink for advice. When my 7-year-old needed help with her eczema, we saw our family doctor. But when my newborn baby had a fever, I wasn't sure what to do.
There's HealthLink, family doctors, walk-in clinics, urgent care centers, and emergency. But do you know where to go and when? Knowing the healthcare options in your area will help you get the care you need when you need it. Visit albertahealthservices.ca/options for details.
I'm Darcy Curl in the QR77 News Center. A man who's wanted in Calgary on robbery charges and credit card theft has been arrested by RCMP in Red Deer, along with a woman in possession of various pieces of identification and credit card altering materials. That story and more coming up in QR77 News at 3:30.
Warming up Calgary's airways for over 25 years. You're listening to Calgary Today with Angela Kokott on QR77. Join the conversation at 974-TALK. That's 974-8255.
Enjoying my conversation with author Natalie McLean. Her book is called Unquenchable, A Tipsy Quest for the World's Best Bargain Wines. I call you an author, but I also think of you, really, wine tasting is your forte.
Absolutely. I'm very thorough with my research when it comes to wine.
So let's do a little research today. You have brought in a wine from Spain, but you didn't get to Spain. However, you did get to Argentina. Is that sort of in the same area that you're thinking?
Absolutely. There are a lot of commonalities. Argentina, Chile, the south of Spain, the new Spain, if you will. Mm-hmm. All of these regions share some common factors that make them very low cost in production and therefore bargains. They have good weather year after year. They're not fighting a cool climate as we do in Canada or France. They, especially in the Argentina, Chile, they have low cost of labor, land is cheap, and so all of that makes them very competitively priced in the liquor store.
So crack it open. And I am saying crack it open because it doesn't have a cork.
It has a screw top.
Are you seeing more and more wines with screw tops?
I am, and that's a good thing, actually. It's not like, the 70s or 80s where it was plonked under screw cap. These days, good wines are bottled under screw cap, and that's because there is a risk of cork taint with a real cork. So it can make the wine smell like a musty attic, which is not pleasant, and you don't get that risk with a screw cap. Plus, you can get into it quicker, like we just did.
Yeah, pour me a little glass here. How did you decide the regions that you were going to visit?
Well, again, another difference between writing a book today and in 2006 with Red, White, and Drunk All Over is not just online, but social media, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. So I crowdsourced it. I asked my readers and the folks who are with me on Twitter and Facebook, where would you go for the good bargains? Which wineries would you visit? And I got back actually thousands of messages and tweets and things. So I narrowed it down from there in terms of what they were interested in, developed short lists of wineries, and then planned the visits.
All right, I'm sampling this.
Okay.
What should I be looking for?
Well, this is a nice, fleshy red wine, and the grapes are grapes you probably haven't heard of. Grenache is one of them. Well, you're going to pay up for Cabernet or Chardonnay. Those are brand name grapes. But when we move away from those into lesser-known grapes, you'll find the deals, but you won't have to give up the taste. And so you'll find this has a nice, luscious, dark fruit, fleshy, full-bodied weight. That's a nice substitute when you don't want to pay up for Cabernet or Merlot.
So you say those are brand name grapes?
Yes, in that, wherever they're grown, they're well known and people can charge more for them, the wineries. But when you don't have something that you recognize on the label or a lesser known region, those are your bargains.
And of course, that's what people would think. I often say, well, I can't go wrong with a Merlot.
Right.
Whereas maybe if I knew other grapes that were similar to that, I'd get a better deal.
Exactly. It's almost like a knockoff, but it tastes just as good, I think.
Very nice.
Yes.
Sure, you traveled the world, but you didn't forget about your own backyard. What is it about the Niagara Escarpment, that whole region, that creates some pretty good wines?
Oh, yes. And I would also include the Okanagan in there, too, along with Niagara. My focus in that chapter is on Pinot Noir, which is the heartbreak grape, which is never cheap because it's difficult to grow and make. And so, but our Pinot Noirs, whether they're from the Okanagan or Niagara, start at about $20, $25. Some people say, well, that's not a bargain, but it is if you compare it to benchmark Burgundy, which starts at $50 and $60 a bottle. I think we produce some sublime Pinots because we have this cool climate, which means that we produce wines with sort of a nervy energy. They have like the mouth-watering acidity, which is fantastic for food. They're packed with flavors. It's why Miles in Sideways went so crazy about Pinot Noir in that movie.
Miles, these girls want to party with us. If they want to drink Merlot, we're drinking Merlot.
No, if anybody orders Merlot, I'm leaving. I am not drinking any Merlot!
But they don't have all the heaviness, the oak and the heavy alcohol and so on. So they're true hedonists wine. All the flavor, none of the heaviness. And I do think they're bargains when they're made in our wine regions.
And it's interesting because you talk about the Okanagan and Niagara. To me, those seem like different climates.
They are. They're technically both cool climates, even though BC is the end of the Sonora Desert. But we do tend to produce some of the same types of wines, like Riesling, the zippy white wine, and Pinot Noir. Those tend to be our specialties. I do think the Okanagan is more successful at more full-bodied reds as well, whereas Niagara tends to go, do the Pinot Noir and Riesling better. But there are some commonalities there in terms of what really works.
Well, I know when it comes to wines, I tend to favor red over white. Do you find that with a lot of people? They say, I like a red versus a white?
I do. I think more and more people are preferring the red, and I'm not sure what it is if we just to prefer the taste, because everything we eat these days, I think, has a more robust flavor, whether we're having Asian or, a steak or whatever. We've ramped it up sensorially, and so I think we're looking for those kind of flavors in the glass, which reds often deliver, and maybe some of it's part of the health benefits or whatever, but
they've done a good job on that whole antioxidant sale for us.
They have.
You mentioned food, and again, in the book, you've got some pairings. Do some people get hung up on, we have to have this type of wine with this meal?
Yes, and I wish we could just throw that out and have fun with it. The old saw was red wine, red meat, white wine, white meat. To a certain extent, of course, that works. But what we're trying to do is match or complement the flavors and weight in our glass with those on the plate. And because cooking has changed, because our tastes have changed and wine has changed, the combinations are very different today, and we can experiment and have fun. And, I wouldn't pair a nice light, fish dish with a big honkin' Australian red Shiraz, but the field is wide open. I do think Pinot Noir, delicious red wine, goes beautifully with planked salmon because that's a meaty fish.
Right.
So it works. And, that's why, as part of what I do on the site and the mobile apps I have a interactive food and wine matcher so that people can just play with it and see all the different possible combinations, because there are so many out there to try.
How long did this take? I mean, really, you cover so many different countries.
Feels like all my life, but it was about 5 years. So, I planned each trip took a lot of planning, and, I spent serious time with 40 or 50 winemakers to narrow it down to 3 of the most colorful in each region. So that did take quite a while.
Is it unfair to ask you what was your favorite region?
What was my favorite region? Well, my favorite wine is the one somebody else pays for, but my favorite region, because I am a wine cheapskate, but my favorite region would probably be the Niagara region, because it's not just because it's in our backyard, but I just love that we have this access to these wines. I know the winemakers better, the foods and so on, and I can carry on that when I get back home. Now, one place that I do recommend as a travel destination vacation, even though most vineyards are terrific that way, is Argentina. If you take tango and Buenos Aires, the Paris of Latin America, and beef and Malbec and the Andes, I mean, it's just a spectacular kind of wine vacation if you're looking for that.
Is there a region that you see is going to be an up-and-coming area that we really should start paying attention to?
Well, Argentina has been on the uprise for a few years now. I don't see that stopping because they've got just an incredible offering in terms of the quality and taste of their wines for the price. I do think we'll see more and more of BC and Ontario wines increasing in popularity as people not only go local, but really start to appreciate just what it is we have here. The only reason our wines aren't better known on the international stage is that we don't produce a lot. But in the world of wine, small is good. And I think, we'll come to that more and more over the next few years.
What is it about the Napa Valley that gives it such a great reputation when it comes to wines? Is it simply just this is the region and the weather and they produce the best grapes?
That's part of it. The quality is in the bottle, and they got started earlier than we did, than Chile or Argentina. So they were led in their efforts largely by Robert Mondavi, who did a world of good for that region. He was grassroots. He went out across the United States and even up into Canada, really sampling and showing the wines. And so they had an early beachhead with that, and then it became very prestigious. So now Napa and Sonoma are they're gorgeous wines, but you will pay up for them. So that insider tip, go south. Paso Robles, Santa Cruz. You'll find better deals or bargains in those regions.
Natalie, thanks so much for bringing us the details on the book.
Oh, my pleasure, Angela.
Again, it's called Unquenchable, a tipsy quest for the world's best bargain wines. Want to mention that Natalie is going to be at Page's Books on Kensington tonight from 7 until 9 for a wine tasting, as well as talking about her book more. And her website was Natalie McLean, that's MACLEAN.com, because it's always changing the different wines that she is checking out. She did leave behind 2 books, and I'd love to give them away, 974-8255. You have to just tell me one of the